Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the one and only Silver the Hedgehog here, and I am back for the likes of the Maxi Toys videos. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more Let's Play of Sonic X Shadow Generations, while we're still experiencing Shadow Generations for the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X/S, PC Steam, Nintendo Switch, plus the upcoming Nintendo Switch 2, all thanks to the backwards compatibility has already been confirmed, at least so far anyway. So, last time, we essentially did manage able to tackle through the hard variants of several of those challenge acts, ranging from Space Colony ARK all the way up to Chaos Island, and my goodness, the forms of the hard challenges with those remaining challenge acts are very brutal, I might add. Especially concerning for the fact that I always have a hard time with the forms of the one in the Sunset Heights, with all this too much spike balls and all that stuff. And same applies with the forms of one of those moving platforms here and there. But aside from all that stuff though, at the very least we actually did those challenges decently. Well, aside from the fact that we did somehow able to actually get ourselves our B rank in one of those challenges in the forms of well, Rail Canyon right here, which involves around using Chaos Control on hard mode, and so much so for the fact that I was so close. But potentially speaking, I was about the fact that, like I said before, getting S ranks is entirely optional unless if you really want to be up for the challenge by going for a full 100% completion. But regardless of anything else though, I'm also able to give all of these S ranks a pass when it comes to challenge acts, apart from one particular stage exception to that. That's of course Radical Highway Act 2. And speaking of which, today for this video is that we're about to be going back into those specific stages again, and especially noticeable by that time until tomorrow as well. For today, as well as tomorrow, we can able to actually just decide able to actually go after the remaining of those specific collection keys, which obviously though is about the fact that we accidentally ignored some of them during the forms of in some stages, because some of those collection keys are, you know, you have to be so specific with all this particular exploration, and there's also a lot of emphasis on, you know, trying to take alternate pathways you have to take, like you have to take the high route in order to actually, you're not only trying to able to actually access to other areas you haven't exactly explored into, but as well as that though, most importantly though, you can able to actually get one of those remaining collection keys. Now, for the most part, we actually did manage to collect quite a few collection keys in the past on our first run through, although despite the fact that we occasionally try to able to retry at one point, at least specifically in one of those challenge acts in particular. And so much to the point, if you couldn't tell already, that as you can see, we ended up back in Act 2 in Space Colony ARK, and as you can tell, yes, I did somehow manage to able to accidentally miss one of those collection keys, which actually, as it turns out, is all about music and stuff like that. And so much to the point for the fact that I can assure to you we are basically done every single aspect in terms of Space Colony ARK. Technically, we've already done fully completed when it comes to likely for its Act 1, but in terms of Act 2 anyway, well, obviously though, if you couldn't tell already, I actually going to be able to go for this entire stage again, but without any Doom Wings equipped, because generally speaking, whenever we first time experiencing the level, obviously though, unexpectedly, we can able to actually learn, technically, the very first Doom power we can able to learn. That's what appears to be none other than Doom Wing. So much to the point, I don't think there's going to be any gameplay interruptions, or in some cases the cinematic cutscene is not going to show up. Unless if you're trying to able to actually activate the Doom Wings or something like that. Well, mind you, no matter what though, is about the fact that it has been about 3 days ago since I actually have last played this game for sure, and generally speaking, I was about the fact that obviously though, Blaze was now onto the final world in Mario & Sonic at the Olympic Winter Games on the DS version, which actually, as it turns out, that she's now onto Blitz Land. So, which is obviously that place is going to be a homeland when it comes to not only for Bowser, but also Dr. Eggman as well. So generally speaking, I was about the fact that you probably get the idea what I was expecting for this point right there. So, yeah, as you can see, there's no interruptions with the forms of the Doom power, so we can just simply just try to able to do the level as normal. So, although this also means about the fact that we can't take those specific routes, like for instance though, normally up there, that is when you're able to actually use the Doom Wing ability. Well, since we did manage to able to turn off the actual Doom Wing ability, basically we have to take a different route, which means we have to get a lot of usage of cylinders based off on the likes of the forms of Final Chase, and on top of all that stuff though, thankfully though, for the most part, when it comes to utilizing the forms of the cylinders, are very easy to manage, whilst unlike the forms of how it does on this very wonky jump sometimes, when it comes to Sonic Adventure 2, with all that Final Chase in mind. I mean, relatively speaking, I was about the fact that thankfully though, this is all in 2D and everything, rather than in 3D, because I could imagine about the fact that if we're trying to interact with those gravity cylinders again, but in 3D, that'll make things a little bit more convoluted to try to deal with. So, just like the forms of how it does in Sonic Adventure 2. So, anyways though, so yeah, a few things I want to talk about is about the fact that, well, today's date, of course, there is the 10th of February today, in some cases in 2025 today, and I've got some very interesting news I would like to point out for you guys, especially concerning for the fact that, well, I was originally trying to able to actually invite one of those special guests that is actually going to be introduced into the Maxi Toys crew, but I'm afraid to tell you that's been delayed and delayed at some point until tomorrow. Well, either tomorrow or the next day, which appears to be Wednesday, but regardless of anything else though, it's about the fact that if you couldn't tell already, that he might be busy on something, especially that for what I've heard, that he's basically waiting for Marge Simpson to be invited to our crew and all that stuff, which it's hard for me to tell honestly, but regardless of such though, hopefully we should probably save that particular topic until for later time. So anyway, so now let's head on to Act 2 in Rail Canyon, and so much to the point that obviously though I'm now equipping the Doom Wings ability. So either way though, also I would like to point things out as well about the fact that during the course of been around a couple of days ago actually, that out of nowhere, that Cap King 74 did a double upload during the forms of the other day, which one of them involves around Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition in the forms of Future Connected, extra story, and also, unexpectedly, he actually did somehow manage able to make a video all about us, especially concerning for the fact that you already know about the fact that we somehow recently reached 1,000 subscribers, which as a result though, it is very incredible on our part, unlike the forms of how it does on our other counterparts, where we're probably not going to get into further details about that particular topic though, just because, well, don't feel like talking about it. So instead though, it's about the fact that there are some interesting news I would like to point things out during the forms of this process. First of all, Moana 2 is actually got confirmed for its DVD/Blu-ray release, and when that's going to be releasing exactly? Probably until next month, which appears to be in March, specifically March 17th, at least to be more specifically in the UK version. I'm not exactly sure about the forms of the American version though, because I haven't exactly double checked it during the forms of the, well, the North American DVD releases for some time. But I'm still really begging for Sonic the Hedgehog 3 movie. We're able to get ourselves the confirmed release dates for DVD and Blu-ray at some point. But like what Blaze has already established that before, since and yesterday, maybe there's a chance it will eventually try to show up once we make our way to next month, which is March, and then eventually it will tell us that it will be releasing until in April, similar to the forms of how it does in during the forms of well, in the first Sonic movie, obviously, that the film did originally came out on the 14th of February in 2020, but then until for around 4 months later, the DVD and Blu-ray release of the film has been released on sometime in June in 2020, despite the fact that we have to deal with the forms of online order instead of trying to get the thing physically when it comes to likely going to the shops in reality, just because, you know, lockdown exists. So And in addition to that, same applies with the films of Sonic the Hedgehog 2 movie, which did originally came out in April in 2022, but then in around 4 months later, in August, that the DVD/Blu-ray release has already been addressed. So yeah, I get the strong sense of feeling it might do the same thing for Sonic the Hedgehog 3, so no matter what though, and I can assure you, imagine if about the fact that the 4th film is going to be on its way, and so much to the point it's going to be releasing until sometime in March 2027, and as far as I'm aware, until for about 4 months later, the DVD/Blu-ray release of Sonic the Hedgehog 4 movie will be expected to be releasing and during at some point in July in 2027, if possible. Well, difficult to tell at this point, because obviously that was about the fact that, well, so far anyway, though, that we've already know about the fact that, well, I'm pretty sure about the fact that we've only got about, well, how do I put it? Oh yeah, no matter what though, it's about the fact that I also did somehow found out that Nintendo has said about the fact that Nintendo says it's continuing to develop new mobile game apps. So yeah, I can totally see why that support is still continuing. Although despite the fact that I haven't exactly touched upon Mario Kart Tour for some time, but that's just mainly because during the films of Mario Kart Tour, despite the fact I'm still not a big fan of the game, of course, but I'm really expecting about the fact that if the actual service is shutting down with Mario Kart Tour at some point in the future, whilst meanwhile for the brand new Mario Kart game for Nintendo Switch 2 will be releasing, then I can definitely bet that we can able to actually replay through for its multiplayer mayhem when it comes to console experience of Mario Kart games ranging from, well, Mario Kart Wii and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe counterparts, just because, although I was originally trying to able to include the original Wii U version, but I'm afraid to tell you for this point, guys, it's been a very long time since I actually have last experienced the Wii U version of Mario Kart 8, probably because Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is still basically the most iconic Nintendo Switch game of all time, despite it was basically a port to a Wii U game or anything else like that, or maybe I said things a complete opposite, but oh well. Beggars can't be choosers, I guess. So, when it comes to likely trying to prefer the original release or the Switch port. So, with some additional content and quality of life improvements, you know? So anyways, here we go, back on to Kingdom Valley Act 1, because as far as I'm aware, we did somehow miss out on not 1, but 2 collection keys. So, thankfully though, we did somehow manage able to found those, no problem. Although, mind you, no matter what though, whenever I did manage able to did done my practice run, during the advance of this process, I can never for the life of me try to able to actually get one of those collection keys, which, as far as I'm aware, that it has to be something to do with the Fonz's autopilot sequence. Well, not so much autopilot, but to be more specifically than that if you try to get into the Doom Surf section, you can't turn back, so you have to specifically try to keep on moving forward, because otherwise, if you ended up missing something, well, you have no choice but to either take a sacrifice, or, potentially speaking of, the tedious part is that if you try to pause the game and select retry, then obviously though you have to start all over again. So, yeah, that's like a great thing about that, I guess. So, anyways though, also about the fact that I've recently managed able to went into one of those random shops recently, and guess what everybody, I finally managed able to obtain one of those items that I keep on hearing about, thanks to Sonic did somehow tell me about this, and as a result, yes, we finally managed able to obtain the LEGO Dimensions Sonic set, and my goodness, it's been a very long time since we were originally trying to plan to get that particular LEGO set, but here's the thing though, we still don't have the game or the USB portal device just yet, but I was planning to at some point. Like, I don't know which specific version of the game I might consider playing on. Well, it might not likely going to be the PlayStation 4 version, just because, as you can tell, that I'm basically almost run out of room for our storage data. Well, depending on about the fact that if the upcoming Sonic Racing Cross Worlds is still going to be a thing, and we have no idea of how much gigabytes does it take when it comes to likely trying to install to the actual game with the actual physical disc, so, or a Blu-ray disc for that matter, despite the fact that I keep on hearing about that Sony is about to able to discontinuing for the sake of the forms of some complications and stuff like that, which, again, it's hard for me to talk about this, especially concerning for the fact that obviously though, as far as I'm aware, that we still have no idea of what the actual specific stuff is going on at the moment, but hopefully by that time probably until next week, once we're able to realize that we will definitely for sure, that we can definitely able to actually finish this game up, probably at some point in this week in particular, which is the week we actually on to right now, ranging from the 10th of February all the way up to the 16th of February if possible. Well, despite the fact that as far as I've heard, that the actual cancellation of one of those projects has already been the case, just because of time constraints. Not to mention, though, is about the fact that we just don't able to actually do the exact same rehash opening. So, yeah, that's as far as I was trying to explain about this, for the sake of the forms of why the upcoming projects has been cancelled. So, oh well, I guess we'll have to able to stick around with, not only for its Let's Plays department, but it's also about the fact that with the upcoming series in the future. So, yeah, I'm very curious to know, but then again, we're probably not going to mention any, details at this point right now, but regardless of everything else though, yeah, that's as far as I can say, because I'm very, very grateful that we somehow finally got ourselves the Lego Sonic, Lego Dimensions set, which, yeah, it still is pretty pricey, especially that luckily though, the condition I somehow got, despite it's not being opened, and so much to the point that it's basically still sealed, so no matter what though, I might keep it sealed for the time being once I do manage to able to receive Lego Dimensions, so that way I can able to fully experience Lego Dimensions Sonic Dimensions story, which as a result, I keep on hearing about that, and as a result though, I've heard is actually really dang good. Like, obviously though, they're trying to able to actually bring a lot of references from Sonic's past based off from the sake of the forms of, you know, while celebrating the 25th anniversary of Sonic the Hedgehog, alongside with the forms of one of those other projects during that time, which as a result, yeah, we'll save more details about that if we potentially try to do a Let's Play of the forms of Lego Sonic Dimensions or something like that. I'm not exactly 100% sure about this though. I mean, let me know in the comments down below if you guys want me to able to tackle through Lego Sonic Dimensions for the likes of Lego Dimensions video game, because, well, I would like to hear your thoughts, because obviously though, I've noticed about the fact that you guys do manage to able to really enjoy my Sonic the Hedgehog content so far, especially with the most recent release of Sonic X Shadow Generations in general, just because no matter what though, it's actually doing remarkably well in terms of views points, and on top of all that stuff though, is just, well, I can totally see why the fact that a lot of people really do enjoy experiencing not only Sonic Generations again, but as well as Shadow Generations as a whole entire new experience where it comes to new levels we can able to explore into, and yeah, you get the idea for that point. So, anyways, here we go, back onto Sunset Heights in Act 2, and so much to the point that, yes, I did somehow miss out on one of those, yet another collection keys, which, as far as I'm aware, that we somehow missed out on the music one. So because of that though, it might be something to do with this part right here, that's similar to the forms of how it does in one of those levels in Sonic Forces in Episode Shadow, where you have to do with this homing attack chain as Shadow, and as a result though, that's the similar method as we did somehow performed ever since in the original Sonic Forces level, or to be more specifically, one of those levels in Episode Shadow. So anyway, so now we're basically done with that, and now we can able to actually finish the level, because, well, similar to the forms of how it does it on these red star rings, including Chow's as well, in Sonic Generations, I'm afraid to tell you, you can't able to actually pause the game and just exit the level after you somehow obtained one of those collection keys, so you have to specifically finish the level in order to able to do it. So, yeah, it feels a little bit inconsistent, but regardless of such though, I honestly don't mind about it too much, because, you know, a lot of the levels in Shadow Generations are still fun to explore, especially concerning for the fact that I'm still very appreciated about the fact that the levels themselves are much more longer than the forms of how it does it on the majority of the stages from Sonic Forces and Cyberspace stages from Sonic Frontiers, because, well, obviously though, Sonic is actually finally back into its good side again, after the events of whoa, 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 whoa. I did not expect him to able to noticing this, but hey, at least I did manage to survive at the end, so kudos to my skills, I guess, when it comes to likely trying to survive from the evil clutches of the forms of those Death-Egg robots, I suppose, but regardless of such though, yeah, Sunset Heights has been completely done, so yeah, awesome stuff. So, either way, so I'm pretty sure that the next stage we're about to dive into when it comes to collecting some more remaining collection keys, and that will have to be by the forms of Chaos Island, specifically Act 1, because I totally ignored the forms of not 1 but 2 collection keys apart from the third and final one. So either way though, that's the stage we're going to be hitting off to next. So now, as far as I'm aware about the fact, I don't think it's possible we can able to actually go ahead and do all these stages again, but with different settings turned on, which is to be more specifically with activate the Doom Wing abilities with any other levels, because obviously though is about the fact that it plays pretty much exactly the same as the normal Shadow playthrough, except, well, you obviously do have the ability to able to actually activate Doom Wings by, you know, pressing both of those bumper buttons at the same time in order to able to actually trigger it. So because of that though, unlike the forms of how it does it on Supersonic Skill for Modern Sonic and Classic Sonic in Sonic Generations, where you simply press the one of the top buttons on your right hand, to be more specifically, the Y button on the Xbox versions, and the triangle button for the PlayStation versions, and I would say the X button for the Nintendo Switch version, plus Nintendo Switch 2, because again, backwards compatibility has already been confirmed, and as a result, you're able to actually turn into Supersonic with either Classic or Modern, whilst in here though, you're simply trying to able to press both of those bumpers at the same time, and that's all you have to really do for this point, as long as you were able to collect 50 rings in any of the levels, including the hub world as well. So yeah, you get the idea about that. So there's also another thing else I would like to point out as well, is about the fact that apparently though, for those of you who live in Japan, they may look like we able to actually, or they did somehow receive, not 1 but 2 other Nintendo 64 games have recently been added to the Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack in Japan for the Nintendo 64 lineup, and both of those games in particular, which they are entirely for the likes of the Turok games. So basically though, that they somehow now finally receive the Japanese version of Turok Dinosaur Hunter, as well as the another game, which I'm not exactly sure what that game's title is called, by the way, because I already know there's actually the forms of other Turok games throughout the forms of the Nintendo 64 era. Like, for instance, though, I've already mentioned about this before, there's the forms of Turok Dinosaur Hunter, alongside with Turok 2 Seeds of Evil, which, gotta think about it, I used to have that game, but apparently, though, I haven't gone around onto playing it, though, mainly because the opening cutscene is very unskippable, at least while I've tested this out anyway, and I haven't exactly experienced a full gameplay of it though, or perhaps even maybe because at this point in time, that Sonic did somehow tell me about this, is about the fact that back in the day, whenever we somehow finally get a chance to able to receive ourselves the Nintendo 64 system, and as a result though, we played quite a lot of Mario games, ranging from Super Mario 64 and Mario Kart 64 and Mario Party 1, as well as Mario Party 3, but it wasn't until in 2018 where we somehow got ourselves the physical version of Mario Party 2, just in case we liked able to collect physical Mario games as far as I'm concerned, even though technically we've already now got 2 different versions of Mario Party 2, ranging from the original physical version and the Wii Virtual Console version, despite the sound emulation problems, I will must admit it though right away. But regardless of such though, it's about the fact that, well, I suppose no matter what though, about the fact that hopefully we'll discuss more about the forms of some more Mario Party information once we get around on doing Super Mario Party Jamboree at some point, but I don't think it's possible we can able to do it during the forms of in a spring season, but maybe, just maybe, we can probably expect you to try to do it in summer, just in case about the fact that we can able to actually do with some even more Let's Plays and Journey Phones event 2025 and all that stuff. So, well, aside from the fact that we are still currently doing 2 of those games in particular, or technically 3, if you decide able to count not only Sonic Generations Remaster, but also with Shadow Generations as well. So, although maybe I'm a little bit more optimistic about the forms of how the actual 2025 is going to plays out to be still, but either way, so as you can see, we're now going back into Radical Highway again, and despite the fact I sound screwed up right there, but that's okay, because obviously though, we've already got the glorious S rank. Now, what's even tricky about the forms of Radical Highway is that sometimes though, like I said before, the platforms themselves are a bit more spaced out compared to the forms of how it does in the original counterpart of Radical Highway. And it's also worth noting for too, that yes, much like the forms of how it does it on Sonic Generations, where if you pay attention to the forms of that particular little rotating bar for when you're trying to swing onto that particular horizontal bar, always have to make sure you jump at the right time once the actual blue thing decides to lit up, and as a result, that way you can get a chance to able to actually jump a bit more higher than you're expecting to. So, and of course, Miles able to actually, just to say this, that Miles able to equip the Doom Wings, because I'm pretty sure one of those collection keys does require you to able to actually use the Doom Wings to begin with, so just in case about the fact that we can able to actually obtain it that way, so, but I digress. And thankfully though, when it comes to the S-rank requirements in the Shadow Generations, at least that does not require you to able to actually do a perfect clear condition, although it's still most likely gonna have to deal with the forms of without dying too many times kind of syndrome or something like that, because it's all about time-based as well as, you know, grabbing most of these rings as much as possible, just in case about the fact that that way you would miraculously trying to get that S rank, so, which you probably already know what I mean ever since in around a couple of days ago, but either way. Oh, and also another thing I would like to point out as well, about the fact that whatever I do manage to able to, yes, I will bring this up again, in terms of the forms of Tiny Toon Adventures, is that I've also do realize about the fact that in addition to having ourselves the Super Mario Bros. Reference in one of those episodes, I also do realize about the fact that one of those, or actually a couple of episodes, do have a bunch of references from The Simpsons, which, as a result though, it feels very, very creative, especially concerning for the fact that was around that time when, I would say The Simpsons did manage to came out the exact same year time as the forms of Tiny Toon Adventures. I might be wrong, but regardless of everything else though, is about the fact that it's all down to the forms of, one of those characters in the actual show, which appears to be, Babs Bunny, which appears to be by the forms of a female counterpart of, Buster Bunny, but I do know for the fact that she just loved doing a lot of disguises from any other like impressions with voices from other characters and stuff like that. In fact, she actually did done the impression of well, let's just say Popeye, and in addition to Charlie Brown from the likes of you know, the Snoopy and Charlie Brown cartoons back then, alongside with the forms of, I would classify for saying, Roger Rabbit, and of course, not only for the likes of Marge Simpson, but alongside with Bart Simpson and Maggie, although despite the fact that Maggie Simpson doesn't talk that much because, well, apart from a few occasions on some episodes of The Simpsons, like the most modern ones or anything else like that, so yeah, anyway. So as you can tell, we somehow managed able to get every single collection keys in Act 1 in Radical Highway, despite the fact that I did somehow failed only one time though, but that's just mainly because you have to deal with the forms that exact timing of the actual height of, depending on how you try to fly and all that, because unfortunately though, you can't able to actually fly upwards though, unlike the forms of how it does in the, well, ironically enough, in the final boss, because obviously though, in the final boss against with Devil Doom, you can able to actually fly up or down, as well as left and right, at least to be more specifically on the third and final phase of the fight. So yeah, it's kind of weird about the fact that we only restrict it to left and right directions, but oh well. No big deal, but hey, at least I got an A rank at the very least from that particular run, but that does not count as a new record because, you know, we already got an S rank. So anyway, so that pretty much does it for Act 1 of Radical Highway, and now we're going to be hitting on to, oh jeez, we're going back to Act 2, aren't we? Especially that I do know for the fact that there was that one particular collection key is pretty stingy to get, plus it's mainly because of this restricted movements. So, and as far as I'm aware, the process might be a bit easier is by pressing the actual bumper buttons to able to move slightly to the left or slightly to the right. So, who knows, I might try my best able to actually accomplish with this. So, anywho, so, and there's also another thing else I would like to point out as well, for those of you who lived in the UK, I can't even believe by saying this, is about the fact that, well, happy 13th anniversary of the game's release of the 3DS version of Mario and Sonic at the London 2012 Olympic Games, which, gee, time flies, you know. Especially, it wasn't until whenever we get on to next month, which appears to be March, that way, about the fact that Mario Party 9 will be expected to celebrate its 13th anniversary until specifically on the 2nd of March. So, despite the fact that every nowadays is about the fact that a lot of Mario Party fans wants to forget about Mario Party 9, especially because obviously though they somehow now moved on to much more better Mario Party games like specifically Mario Party Superstars and recently Super Mario Party Jamboree, both on Nintendo Switch. So much to the point for the fact that, well, it's a good thing that Mario Party is not going to go back onto their stupid car mechanics, which no matter what though, because it's been 10 years ago actually since, you know, Mario Party 10 did first roll around on the Wii U, and usually, still, it's very crazy about the fact that while looking back, well, I suppose no matter what though, that particular topic can't wait though, during at some point once we make our way to March anyway, so anyway. And as you can tell, I accidentally have to restart this stage because I have no idea why, what's up with the forms of my performance as far as I'm aware. I mean, then again though, it has been quite some time since we've somehow last experienced this stage. I mean, it is still very brutally difficult, especially if you don't able to actually activate the Doom Wing. Well, I would have liked able to try to go up for the challenge, but regardless of such though, it's about the fact I'm probably not going to waste too much time when it comes to like trial and error as well as dual die situations when it comes to tricky platforming. And also not to mention though is about the fact I just want to get these some stuff done before we move on to the next Let's Play at some point, but either way though, but then again, we're not going to tell you exactly what it is just yet, so. And by the way, something's worth noting for Enduring the Forms within Chaos Island Act 1, if you do manage to activate Doom Wing ability, thankfully you've become invincible Enduring the Forms of whenever you accidentally land on the forms of the lava. So generally speaking, I was about the fact that it's basically like a glorified, you get the idea. Ever since Enduring the Forms have been around a couple of days ago, so. Anyways though, so let's go ahead and grab this one right here with this collection key right there, and, well, after all, we've only got one collection key left for this stage anyway, and as a result, like I said before, it's going to be pretty tricky to obtain because, obviously though, with all this very weird movement, you got able to cooperate with it. So, anyways, so let's go ahead and beat this monster again, although I would have liked able to skip this part entirely, but I might get the feeling about the fact I'm probably not going to get the best rank after all, so, oh well, I suppose I might as well try that again at some point. So, for now on though, let's just go ahead and take care of the forms of one of those collection keys for this point right now before we move on to the forms of the challenge acts where it comes to those remaining collection keys we do need to get. And once we're done with that, we can now able to actually say, we can able to actually now open up the rest of the forms of those collection boxes at some point. So, dang it, I missed it. Oh, it's very stingy right there. But, thankfully though, again, you do have an unlimited amount of tries. So, at least it's nothing like the forms of how it does it on this very schizophrenic difficulty curve. for the likes of Sonic Lost World if you're trying to go after those remaining red star rings, either on the Wii U version or the PC version nowadays. That as a result though, there's going to be a lot of dual die situations, and especially noticeable with a lot of Tron era when it comes to Sonic Lost World in general. Well, same applies with the Evolves of 3DS version as well, despite you have to do with a lot of emphasis on marathon levels and the insane amount of monotony and too many emphasis on trial and error, which as a result to me though, the Wii U version slash the PC versions are superior versions in my opinion. I mean, truth be told though, the Wii U version might be a little lacking in consistency, and the level gimmicks I'm not exactly sure I'm most comfortable with. I mean, granted, the Wii U version doesn't go nearly as dragged on as the Evolves of how it does on the 3DS version of the game, so... But still, I can't deny about the fact that the 3DS version of Sonic Lost World is pretty bad anyway, so anyways though, so that pretty much does it for all of those collection keys on the regular stages, but then again though, we still got a couple of those collection keys left until we've decided able to actually get started to try to find the rest of the evolves of those collection boxes, so that way we can open up chests that does contain concept arts, and especially noticeable with some music, and of course some story arcs for Shadow's perspective. So, and I was so close to getting S rank, but I'll take an A. So, if only for the fact that if I keep on like screwing up at, like, for instance though, with that very stingy collection key, which is, I think it's the music one actually, that gives me a hard time. But regardless of everything else though, as long as you were able to try to be more steady for the actual movements, then you should be alright. So, there we go folks. So either way, I suppose we should probably double check on these challenge acts right here for these collection keys I did somehow miss out on. I mean, for the most part, we've almost got every single one of them, apart from a few exceptions. So, either way. And believe it or not though, I think that's as far as I can talk about in terms of the forms of today's discussion. I mean, I would have liked able to explain something else for that particular point's worth noting for, but honestly guys, that's why I can really talk about it. So with that being said folks, it's that we get endings off this point right here. So join me next time for more of Let's Play of Sonic X Shadow Generations. While we're still playing through Shadow Generations, is that we're about to be collecting the last bunch of those collection keys, but this time during the forms of our replays of some challenge acts, and yeah. So I'll see you guys until tomorrow.